Do you struggle with food guilt, restriction, or just confusion on what a healthy relationship with food looks like? Well, if so, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we are going to break down the key pillars of food freedom, mindful eating, and fueling your body with confidence. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Hello, everyone. I didn't say this on the last episode, but if you're new to this podcast, we are going to talk about our lives, babies, puppies, and television. So if you would like to skip to today's topic, please check out the show notes below to see when we stop talking about ourselves. Hi.
How was it your Asian place too? We didn't talk about that.
Oh, yeah. So Valentine's Day, we went to 333, which is an Asian-inspired steakhouse or some Korean-inspired steakhouse. Place was awesome. Atmosphere amazing. Service great. Food, Really? Their steak was not, again, wasn't steak 44. So,
well, we're Dominic's hoes.
Yeah. So we shared a bunch of things. So we got a aguachile, which is just like fancier ceviche. We had their Wagyu street taco, which was literally like this big. It was like
not good.
Thing.
We're eating,
it was
girls.
Delicious. Yeah. And then we had their whipped edamame, which was good. And then for entree, we shared a lobster carbonara and a 8-ounce filet with the side of asparagus.
And
then the dessert was like, yeah, the dessert was not, the menu did not look appealing to me, so we did not do dessert there. We went and saw Some Like It Hot, which is a Broadway show. It was so good. It was so good. I loved every bit of it. There was tap dancing. Give me a good tap dance for a game over. And then we had one of their cheesecake brownies. That we shared. So it was fun and just an easy day. Not day, like
Valentine's.
Yeah, it was actually a really good time. I enjoyed it. And then the next day we walked to Oso, right? Then we went to the farmer's market and we got the dogs a bunch of preservative-free treats, basically just like straight up beef, chicken feet. They had those yesterday. They look so weird. And bought some.
Made her dog's food, like makes it.
We make our dogs food.
You guys make your dog's food too?
Yeah, we combine chicken and rice. And then we put in fish oil and low sodium chicken broth, and then a little kibble just to give it some crunch.
Okay.
But Liberty is on chicken, rice, and pumpkin because she has had diarrhea.
Yeah.
And the problem with Liberty's diarrhea is she doesn't have function of her tail, so therefore it gets all over the place.
What did the doctor ever end up saying about that?
It's nerve damage. So Sonia and I talked about her going to her because Sonia does chiropractic on babies and dogs.
Does she really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she has this cold laser that's supposed to, I looked it up. It's supposed to help with like rejuvenating damaged nerves. So you're going to try that.
Okay.
But yeah. So we came back and we were going to ride our bikes to that little clubhouse at the Biltmore that we like.
Mm-hmm.
But we ended up deciding we were going to go check out that restaurant. So we went to the clubhouse, had lunch, and we were sitting next to this couple that were here visiting from Kentucky and ended up becoming friends. And they came with us to check out the bar in Scottsdale. And then that's why we were in like Old Town. We are like showing them different places. They wanted to like, they were like YOLO. And
how old were they?
They were 34 and like 36, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we went to dinner with them.
Oh my God.
Had a whole day. And I don't know what I did with her number, or she like, I must have not saved it right. Cause I went to go like, be like, oh my God, it's so great. And now I can't find. So if she's listening, find me. It was awesome.
How funny.
Yeah. We did that a lot on our trip. So like, it's not, the funny thing is I think people think we're swingers.
I could see that.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, we just like to make friends.
Well, yeah, Mark is a good chat. You guys are good chatters.
Yeah. So we just made friends. And now I can't get a hold of them because she's not on social media.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh,
Just great.
whoopsie.
Yeah. But that was Valentine's Day. Where'd you go to sushi?
Sushi Crush, just our go-to spot.
Oh, where's that?
Yeah. It's off Greenway and 64th Street. They do a good
Okay.
job. It's quick, easy, good.
Since you're over there, go to Kodo. Kodo. It's
K-O.
got forbidden rice instead of white rice.
K-O-D.
So fucking good.
Is that the place where you're like, we should go?
Yeah, we should go. Let's go. You know what? If I don't feel like crap, what time are you done with audiology on Friday?
I'm done at probably 12:31-ish.
And that's down here, huh? So that wouldn't make sense to drive all the way over there.
Let's see.
So we're supposed to go to Nashville this weekend.
Oh yeah. Are you not going now?
No, because it's gonna be 21 degrees.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah.
They're having a lot of storms there too.
Yeah. So we ended up, even though it cost us like $300 more, ended up moving our entire trip to April.
Yeah, but you don't want to do that.
Yeah. Plus, Dustin's going to be in town this weekend.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
He's here right now, actually.
Uh-oh.
He's here for work.
Uh-oh.
No uh-ohs. I'm only drinking for special events. So
What are you guys going to do this weekend then?
We're going to go eat dinner on Friday, and then he's going to see his family on Saturday, and then we're going to go to a baseball game on Sunday. Spring training starts this weekend.
Already?
I know. That's what I said. I'm like, it's not even March. Yeah. So spring training starts on Thursday.
Oh, wow. Spring training. I love spring training games.
It's so fun. Yeah. So we're just going to do the lawn.
Yeah.
What do you got going on?
This weekend?
Mhm.
Great question. I have no idea.
Oh, good.
I'm not mentally there yet. I was going to go to my cousin's son's soccer game because why not, and that's it. I'm booked. So
yeah, totally booked.
Yeah, totally booked.
No, I told Mark, I said, I'm just drinking. I know a lot of women out there are going to be like, yes, you can't do it like you used to when you get older.
Well, that's what, like the other weekend when Michael's family's here, I had 3 mimosas in like a flute, right?
Yeah.
So not even like the wine glass.
Right.
And I wasn't torched, but I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I haven't drank essentially in a year, and holy hell. So,
yeah.
Yep.
For me, I think I can do it like I used to. And then I don't feel good. I'm so over it. I'm just over it.
I just want I want the feeling of being drunk without like the calories of drunk and the hangover of drunk or the sleeplessness of
That's why you have to get happy drinks.
What are
They're THC drinks?
Oh.
But you can't do that. So it's a seltzer, and they have THC in them. And they have ones for when you want to be social and ones when you want to relax.
Oh.
And I take one can, they're very small, and I put it in, I've actually brought them to restaurants with me. I put them in soda water. So I just put like a little bit of the happy and then the rest soda water. And you're just chilling. You got a little buzz, but like no hangover. They're like 25 calories a can.
That's nice.
I know. There's a Flower Boy, which is a seltzer that actually has CBD in it, I want to say.
Yeah, you definitely can't have THC while you're breastfeeding.
Yeah. So that's where I'm going to go. I just, everyone's like, why do you need drugs?
Because drugs are kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah, they are.
I'll defend that one. Drugs are kind of nice sometimes.
Yeah, I'd rather take THC than like the prescription medication that I've been prescribed in my life.
I take the prescription.
Makes me feel better.
Yeah, the prescription makes me feel better, but I miss the THCs.
Yeah, the THCs of the world.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. I watch Southern Hospitality, which is a show about they're younger kids that are like working in a restaurant. And one of them has been sober for 10 years. And she works in a bar. All of her friends drink. She just gets mocktails, and she does it. It doesn't bother her. And then in Summer House, another guy is completely sober. Same thing. Now he's California sober, which is THC.
THC.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get it.
Well,
So
I've been watching One Tree Hill now. I've moved on from Gossip Girl. And One Tree Hill is pretty lame, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But they're like, stay with it. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of stupid, but
did you not watch it before?
No, I've never seen it before.
Neither have I. All these shows you've been watching, I don't watch.
Yeah, I've never seen. They were like big hits when I was growing up, and I never watched them. I'm like, where was I? What was I doing? Like that, I didn't watch these shows.
I watched like Saved by the Bell. Like you put that up on your thing, and I was like, I was watching Saved by the Bell. I don't know any of these shows. I feel like I was in college when those shows came out.
Yeah,
but I am old
probably.
lady.
Because they were like in high school and middle school when they came out for me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of old ladies, diet culture.
Yeah.
Diet culture, right? A world filled in diet culture has taught people conflicting ideas about what nutrition advice should look like, what are emotional eating triggers. Diet culture has created a false sense of what a good relationship with food looks like. People think a healthy relationship with food is like constantly being good, as they say, always eating clean, being disciplined. These are all words that we hear when in all reality, the healthiest relationship with food is one that is flexible. And that is what we are going to talk about today. So yeah, we've both talked about our struggles with food, right? And I was an eating disorder therapist and still struggled with this shit.
Really?
Like,
did you feel hypocritical?
Yes.
Or you didn't think it was like the same?
No, you know what? I was like, well, I don't have an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I'm just helping. I can do this.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an eating disorder, but I had disordered eating. And it just feels so good, you guys, to not struggle with that. It feels amazing to be able to go on that date with my husband and be like, this is totally fine. Now there are things in my diet that I still need to have control over, alcohol being one of them, because again, where I used to be able to consume X amount of alcohol, it doesn't feel good for me. So going back to last episode of talking about what does an ideal body feel like I don't want to feel like that. Plus, it's not caught up to me, if you will, right? So like in my brain, it's like, oh, well, there's not this is not going to be an issue, but it will catch up to you too. So for me, I still struggle with that. But again, because it's kind of interesting because I've dealt with the food struggles. Now it's kind of like, okay, what else? Like, is there something else that needs to kind of be
refined,
reassessed? Refined, yes. And that's where I'm at with that. So what we want to talk about is what it actually means to have a healthy relationship with food. Again, as I talked about eating clean, what are some of the things you hear like in media that is like, if you do this, then you're healthy?
If you eat clean, 80-20, which 80-20 is always like, it kind of gets a little hairy. If you exercise every day, if you're look this way, so going back to our other podcasts of looking a particular way, what else do I see? Like you can do this too, if like the train hard kind of stuff, like if you would just do this, a quick fix, like your 30-day, body rehab kind of shit, your timelines is what I see a lot of.
Well, and even this idea that healthy food is diet food, right?
Yeah.
And pleasurable food is bad food, and that is so far from the truth. I love the healthy food is diet food, like as if eating whole foods is a bad thing.
Right.
Some people have flipped it to be a diet culture thing. The people who talk about like the diet culture mentality, like the people are like, oh, diet culture is bad. You can eat whatever you want. Now there's we need to have boundaries and moderation around all of this. I have a client who was in a program that promoted that, and it almost exacerbated her binge eating.
Really?
And yes, because she didn't learn how to create that balance and that flexibility, right? So we're going to talk about 10 values that are what we consider values around a healthy relationship with food. So number 1 is eating for nourishment and enjoyment, something you guys have heard here before. Foods are both pleasurable and nourishing. Now, we cannot forget this. Our bodies require vitamins, minerals, macro and micronutrients to be our best selves. Our hormonal health, immune system health, digestive health, brain health, all of the healths that comes from your food. So because that comes from our food, we do have to have a good amount, or at least make sure we're getting enough nourishment in. And then also, because food tastes good, we also need to allow for those pleasurable foods and not label them.
I think your example of this weekend is a great one with you and Mark, of like going out and looking at the menu of the restaurant, and you guys decided like nothing really sounded great. And the pleasurable food that you chose was whatever that cookie. What is it? Cookie?
Cheesecake brownie.
Cheesecake brownie. So
they warmed it up and we had a decaf coffee with it.
God, yeah.
Let's go.
So I think like you choose your pleasure, right? And I think a lot of people, what they'll do is, I'm at the restaurant, we just have to get dessert. And it's like, you don't have to get dessert if nothing on that dessert menu sounds good. You can choose to get something else. You can choose to go somewhere else. You can choose to say, you know what, like if you're going to go home that night, like maybe we'll just go home and get something tomorrow too. And so it's making the choices of what is nourishing and what is pleasurable and what is going to bring you joy. I see a lot of times clients, they just kind of in the beginning with working with us, they don't know how their log ended up that way, right? There's kind of this lack of self-reflection as they make those choices. But I would say, to add to this, number 1 for eating for nourishment and enjoyment is the choice of eating nourishing foods and pleasurable foods too. And along with that, you're feeling like satisfied after meals, not engorged and not still hungry, but just at a nice neutral point where it's like, what is it? Like you can still do your jumping jacks, but you definitely don't want to go for a run. And you're not thinking about the next meal and trying to time the next meal or trying to adjust the next meal. Like each point of eating is, I don't want to say an event, but like a present moment in your life, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to have the sandwich, but then I got to make sure I have enough calories to save for dinner tonight or something like that,
Yeah. And just to clarify what she's talking about with jumping jacks, not that you should just do jumping jacks after a meal, learning how to eat portions of meals that are based on your goals. So if we are someone who is ready, both mentally, physically, emotionally for a fat loss phase, we teach them that you eat a portion where you could do 10 jumping jacks. You could have a couple more bites, but we're not going to have those bites. Whereas if you're at maintenance, we can't do the 10 jumping jacks, but we can get up and walk around freely. And if we were to have 3 to 5 more bites, then we'd be in that surplus where we're just kind of like, ugh, and just sitting there for a while. So just wanted to reiterate that. No, it's very important to like walk away from the meal feeling both physically and emotionally satisfied, right? So physically, I feel satisfied with how much I've consumed. Maybe I feel satisfied with the types of food I've consumed because they serve my body. But also I had that, piece of chocolate afterwards, or I took something nourishing and made it pleasurable. So like we talked about the cheeseburger stuffed sweet potatoes, that we added some cheese to, and they were so good, right? And it was, if I just ate maybe ground beef and sweet potato, it's still probably delicious because sweet potatoes are delicious, but adding some of that cheese and that Laughing Cow made it that much better, right? So now I'm satisfied and I've provided my body with the nutrients it needs from that ground beef, from the sweet potato, and from even the cheese. So good. So number 2. A healthy relationship is one that is absent of food rules and moralization. One of our first assessments our clients do is their rules, right? What do they deem healthy, or what do they believe are, their values around food. So I'm going to bring that up so I can read it to you guys. I actually talked about this on Instagram recently. I've been doing Instagram lives every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, or 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Time zones.
So
challenging.
So annoying.
And it's challenging for us, for those people who are like, what are you talking about? It's challenging because Arizona doesn't change their time. So
correct.
We just never know what time zone we're in and then who else is on that time zone. So we have to Google it a lot.
I interrupt this episode to bring you information on our Sprinkling Your Mindset Masterclass here at the Mindset of Matter. The masterclass will be on March 25th, and it will be covering all of the things we talk about here at the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast and have you gaining understanding around your behaviors, your yo-yo dieting, your restricting and binging, you're starting over again on Monday. On top of that, you will get a $10 early bird discount to sign up for our 21-day Food and Body Freedom Challenge. This is a challenge that is a mini mindset method on top of receiving nutrition and exercise guidance. This is a taste of what we do here at the Mindset of Matter, and you'll receive our 21-day challenge at $29 if you sign up between now and our masterclass on March 25th. So I hope to see all of you both in the masterclass and in our 21-day challenge. Now, back to the show.
So I can talk about some of my food rules that I had. So like, for example, like I talked about in the last episode, like if I had chicken for lunch, I'd have to have chicken for dinner. So whatever meat I had was the meat that I would have for that day. So sometimes I'll see intermittent fasting have rules, right? Not considering that you did fast throughout the night, but intermittent fasting is a rule of like, oh, I don't eat before 7 a.m. or, oh, I don't eat before 12 p.m.
or after a certain time.
And like that could be 7 p.m. too. And then for me, like if it came in a box, a bag, or had like a label on it, this is at my like highest of disordered eating. I like would not eat it, would refuse. So that included butter, which, doesn't make any sense. And anything like, so for now, like right now I have Kodiak pancakes. Like I would have never had that. Like I'm having chicken nuggets from Costco. I would have never had that because they came in a box or a bag.
Yeah. And some of the ones I have here is like you only allow yourself certain foods if you can work it off. You hyper focus on foods. When you're eating, you completely disconnect when eating certain foods. That's usually pleasurable foods. You eat with others and always compare. We mentioned this one, only eat after a certain time or do not eat after a certain time. You need to clean your plate, right? The Clean Plate Club. I believe you shouldn't eat certain types of food groups. You eat because food is in front of you. You eat out of social pressure, even when you're not hungry. You eat clean on the weekends and then reward yourself on the weekdays. You struggle with the binge restrict cycle. You restrict your food or food groups only to binge on them later. You are always on a diet. You did X, so you deserve Y food, or I always eat X food in Y situation. And so basically we're going to healthy relationship with food is the opposite of all of those. But this idea of foods being good or bad, again, is going to keep you don't realize that you're putting your worth and value on that food. Because again, like we talked about in No Cheat Days, like if I say this food is good, then I'm good. And if I'm not eating that food, then I'm the opposite of good, which is bad. And if I'm bad, then I'm rebellious. And then that's where it can get out of hand. Your food does not have any sort of morality on you, right? Does that sentence make sense?
Your food does not determine your morality. Like it does not determine how good of a person you are.
Correct. Yes, that was better. So we want to look at foods as what we talked about. Are we physically and emotionally satisfied after we eat, right? So like, for example, today for lunch, I have this salmon wrap that I make. It's just like a tortilla with salmon, cucumber, feta cheese. It's delicious. But then it's great. I love it. But I always have my baked jalapeno kettle chips on the side.
Nice.
And then I have my little chocolate, and then I love it. It's a great meal, right? And when I'm saying physically and emotionally satisfied, that doesn't mean we have to have these elaborate things either, right? It could be just something easy like a, turkey sandwich and some chips. So go. All right. Number 3, tuning into hunger and fullness cues. So as we've talked about, you've always had this ability. Babies have this ability to tell you when they're hungry and to stop when they're full. It's only when it's taken away from you through maybe your parents projecting their own food rules or disordered eating onto you that you begin to not listen to that part of your body. So a healthy relationship with food is saying, I'm hungry now and I stop when I'm full.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, interestingly, I'll find that even in maintenance, this has happened in the past couple weeks where I'll have my snack. So I tend to get hungry between lunch and dinner.
Hell
Like
yeah.
I almost need 2 snacks. It's what
Yeah.
it feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
And I will have my first snack and then I'll just kind of reassess. Sometimes I won't need another snack, but sometimes my brain is just like, and it's usually like carbs, which is funny. But even when I say carbs, like it could be golden grams or it could be baby carrots, So there's some sort of energy thing happening during that time that I'm trying to figure out. But I'm listening to my body. And then I need to assess, okay, is this truly just like I'm actually hungry, or am I like more stressed during this time? But I'm constantly listening to not just how my hunger and fullness cues, but also how foods feel in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, it's more so like to keep up my milk supply. I'm always telling myself, like, if I want to keep up my milk supply, I need to eat. I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whereas I think a lot of times with my clients who are postpartum, they'll be like, oh, I'm hungry. It's a good thing, right? Like I'm losing weight. If I'm hungry, I'm losing weight. And I'm like, no, if I'm hungry, that's not good. I need food. And I try and like honor that. And I also have like a mantra, like if I eat, she eats, right? Because if I have enough food in me, then I'm going to have enough milk in me. And then, I mean, in an ideal situation, right? And not everybody's body works this way, then she's going to eat. And so, and trying to pay attention to like how I feel when I'm hungry, right? So physically, I feel fatigued. Emotionally, I feel a little bit more on edge. And so I want to make sure that I'm honoring the cues that it's giving me and then eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4 is a healthy relationship with food is without anxiety or guilt around food. So eating indulgent foods doesn't elicit any feelings of shame or guilt or feeling like you have to make up, for eating that food or work it off. I will say so Friday we had that meal and the dessert. I wasn't very hungry Saturday morning. And I ended up having a protein shake. And then we went to Oso, came back. And then for lunch, I still was like a little bit, not very hungry. So I had like a Cobb salad, which was delicious at the restaurant there. But I wasn't restricting my food. I just was a little bit fuller because I had so much food the night before. But if I was hungry, I would have eaten, there was nothing in my brain that was like, oh, I can't eat breakfast because I had that indulgent meal. No, absolutely not. And I didn't work out. Like we did our normal walk that we do every Saturday, but it wasn't like, oh, I have to work this off. I will say that during the day that day, I ended up having a last minute appointment during lunch. So I had my breakfast. I had a shake because I knew I was going to this appointment and I hadn't made my lunch. Normally when I go get my hair done, because it was a hair appointment, I'll make my lunch and bring it with me. But long story short, for those who don't know, I have extensions and that we tried to just do 1 row instead of 2. So I went Thursday and she just put in 1 row and I was like, this looks very thin. So she luckily had an opening on Friday, put the other row back in. So anyway, so I didn't eat lunch till a bit later, right? So it actually ended up kind of just working out that once I got to that dinner, I had just had a lunch probably 3 hours before. And I just felt good. I felt like I was hungry, right? I was ready to eat, but not starving, which what a lot of people would do, where they would just restrict their food and not eat. But coming back to the value itself, is there was no, God, I just remember being so obsessed and fixated around foods that I ate. Like, oh my God, I had that. Like, I'm going to get so fat. This is terrible. I've got to make it up. It's such a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
To have. Like, that's the only way I can describe it.
I think a lot of times most of our audience will be able to recognize this like guilt and anxiety around food the holiday season. But I would challenge you is that probably happens more likely daily, if not weekly, as well. It's just holidays are such like an extravagant option of food, whereas daily and weekly, it's more nuanced or it's more micro, right? And so it's how do you wake up? I think like a good question for that you're hearing from Christina is how do you wake up tomorrow if you have this meal? Do you feel guilty? Do you have anxiety about what you did? Or how do you see the day coming forward if you have like a dinner out? Do you feel anxious about it? Do you feel like you're trying to like adjust every single calorie that you can? Because that is a relationship that you need to work on. And like you're saying, it's very freeing once you're able to wake up without guilt, once you're able to look forward to dinner rather than kind of anxious to dinner too.
Yeah. I have a new client and she has just had some meals out, and we do teach our clients how to prepare for a meal out, and not because they need to be so rigid in it. We're preparing for we're tracking for satisfaction, as we talked about before. So we're going to track that meal first. The other thing is people don't realize like how calorie dense meals out can be. So it is an educational thing too, of like, okay, like, it's okay if they go over on that day, right? Just knowing like when you eat meals out, there's a likely, a high possibility that you're going to go over your calories, right? Yeah. And I want you to plan so that you feel satisfied, that there is no guilt around it. And as I talked about, I don't want you to starve yourself during the day, right? Because then that's the anxiety kicking in. Oh, I need to eat, my cottage cheese only for the whole day, or the whole thing that people do is like, oh, I'll just have protein coffee.
What?
You don't see this with your clients? I see these
No.
people walking in all the time. Like, oh, I just put protein in my coffee.
Oh, like for breakfast, that's what they have? Yeah. Okay. Now I'm with you. I'm like, what?
And I'm like, no.
Yeah, they have that. Like they'll have it. Like I had protein powder in there, collagen, then I had my greens with it. I'm like, okay, where's your like food?
Right. Exactly. So for this particular client, she is in a fat loss phase, and she has been able to go out and enjoy herself without guilt or anxiety. I did have to tell her, 'cause she goes, oh yeah, she was planning the day, and she goes, yeah, I studied the menu and this and that. So I'm listening. Like I said, no, this is great, obviously, to educate and have a good plan for today, but I want you to also be aware if it's getting too rigid. Right. So I wanted to get in front of that. Speaking of rigidity, number 5 is having flexibility in your eating patterns. I tell this to our clients often that you need to be able to adapt to different social situations and settings, right? So the way you eat at home is going to look different than when you're traveling for work, when you're out socializing, when you go to your mom's house during the holidays, as you said. And we want to be able to adapt without being stressed out about it.
Yeah, I would say like going back to our seasons episode, right? Of always being able to be flexible depending on the time of year, depending on what's going on, depending on maybe the school calendar. Because if we're able to do that, we can recognize that just because I do this during summer doesn't mean not that you can't do the same thing during winter, but that you choose to do the same thing during winter. Like those two seasons may have two totally different like timing structures, food structures, social structures as well. So we understand that, sometimes it's more important to have more nutrient dense food. So say for example, you were going to Tennessee this weekend, right? You would make sure, okay, I need to make sure like I'm really having some solid food this week, because when I go out to eat, sometimes it's hard to get the vegetables in, right? And so just thinking of flexibility and an overall average. I see this so much as clients focus on that one meal that fucked everything up. Moving forward, fuck it, I already had that bad meal. I might as well have a bad day, which turns into a bad week. What I'm saying to you is look at every meal as a piece of the puzzle and being able to be flexible, transparent, and moderate what you need to. So maybe Christina and I were going to go get sushi. She decided, let's get pizza instead. Well, I know pizza doesn't have much protein, right? Whereas sushi, you can kind of finagle the protein. So now for dinner, I'm going to make sure I get a protein heavy meal, or for my snack, I'm going to have a protein heavy snack as well.
And for those of you listening who are like, well, I don't, I'm not you guys. I don't want to be strong or whatever.
Like
you still weightlifting strong. Yeah. But you're just here for general health. Like that's still important for you. Right. Because, protein's going to help not just build your muscle tissue, but it helps with all cellular turnover and tissue, creating tissue in your body. So, and obviously, like I said already, the micronutrients are there for hormonal health and digestive health and all of the things. So when we're looking at it, if we do have balance and flexibility, is I can go on the vacation and enjoy the meals out. But even on vacation, I'm still looking. I'm having, one thing we teach all of our clients is eat your protein first, right? That protein could be chicken nuggets, but you eat that first. I talk about my stagecoach incident where the busiest night, the place that we had been going to eat, which was a noodle, it was noodles and chicken and veggies. It was delicious. And all of us got it. It was just the thing we got because it was relatively healthy, but also tastes good. But that place had a line that was an hour long. So I just had to find something quick. I found chicken tenders. And I said, instead of the French fries, I said, is there anything else you have other than French fries? She goes, oh, I can throw in 2 more tenders. I was like, great.
Yeah.
Now chicken tenders are fried, but it was the best option that I could find in that moment that was high protein. And I had 4 of the tenders and I was full because there was a good amount of chicken in them. Right. And so that was flexibility, because I knew if I stood in the hour-long line, number one, I would get ravenous. I'd probably want to order more than my belly actually needed, but I also was on a time constraint. I think of this too, we give our clients the fast food options. If you're out and about, it really irks me when people are like, well, I was blah. We were just out with the kids, so I couldn't. It's no, you can. You just made up a story.
Yeah.
And rigidity.
You can. Because even Michael now, so when he orders Chick-fil-A for breakfast, he'll get the chicken breakfast sandwich. I don't know what it is because I never order Chick-fil-A. But he gets 2 of them and just doesn't do the bun and stuff on the second one. So he'll have 2 of the chicken parts to help his protein.
I used to travel for work. And I would get the Chick-fil-A egg white chicken sandwich. So it's egg whites and chicken. I think it's 40 to 50 grams of protein. Nice. And then a side of their fruit. Yeah. That's easy, right? And then I would eat a Chick-fil-A again for lunch. I'd get their market salad or with an extra side of chicken nuggets. That is an excuse. It is not a reason. You're trying to use this rigidity of I can only eat in this specific way. So I couldn't make the decision. And that's what ended up causing me to binge.
Yeah.
Right. And it's no. Did you want to binge? So you use that as an excuse to binge, right? Where you could have gone to Wendy's, McDonald's. You can go really any place. You can go to Trader Joe's and grab something from there. You go to Sprouts, they have wonderful sandwiches. You go to Subway. Subway is always an option for everyone. They have a Subway in every country.
But airport.
Right. Okay, so I want to just give another example of my hair appointment. So the day before, I knew that I was going to be at that appointment. I prepped my lunch because I knew I was going to be there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Through lunch. So I brought I had made that buffalo chicken dip for Super Bowl. So I made a salad out of it. It was delicious. And then I brought my little chocolate, right? And my water bottle. And when it was time to eat, I ate. And I was thinking about that of, people are, well, not plan ahead, right? And have that flexibility. Like I have to prep this now so that I can eat it then. So I'm not ravenous when I get home and do end up in a drive-through, but not choosing the foods that work best for me. And again, when clients tell me that, or I couldn't track because that's fine. Don't track. We also have the food journal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we've decided you're not going to track, that's also okay. But if you just use that as an excuse, it's almost like they can't see that they can have this flexibility. So if I can't do it this way, then I'm not going to do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I don't do it at all, I get upset with the repercussions of not doing it at all. Right.
Hello, listeners. We have the Mindset of Mommies program coming out March 3rd. In this group coaching program, you're going to get 8 weeks of foundational topics to give you the best pregnancy yet. This is for people who are interested in getting pregnant, who are currently trying to conceive, or if you're pregnant, and that could be your first pregnancy or your 5th pregnancy. In this 8-week series, what we're going to do is take you through weekly topics that focus on adjustments for pregnancy. So for example, how to adjust your exercise training through each trimester, which nutrition considerations you need to implement into your diet and lifestyle. What mindset shifts do you need to make through your body image, gaining weight, as well as your relationships? What support services should you seek? Do we need a pelvic floor physical therapist, chiropractor, massage, all the goods and ends? Also, resources. I've got a full Google Drive of resources for you to have access to. We'll also have weekly group calls. On these weekly group calls, they are recorded, so you have a lifetime of access to reference them. So if this is something you're interested in, again, we're starting March 3rd. Be sure to sign up in the link below, and let's get you started for the best pregnancy yet.
The healthiest person is the most flexible one. You can have plan A, B, C, D, and E. And as long as all those plans are in alignment with you and what you want, it is okay.
Yeah.
It is a-okay. Good. Anything else with that?
No, I was thinking that's a perfect one to go into for number 6 with the emotional regulation without food dependence, because a lot of times food choices will be made based off of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you're talking about, like, I was just like, we'll hear a client say, I was just so stressed that I just chose this, or I was just so upset, or my kids wanted this. And so I wanted to have it with them and have fun. Right. And so they feel like they're missing out on an aspect, but like they're choosing foods based on stress, boredom, challenges in the workday, having like wanting to get rid of uncomfortable emotions that they're not used to processing through.
Mm-hmm.
And what we'll see is like the healthy relationship with food is they're aware of their emotion, they recognize it, but they let the emotion be separate from the food choice, right? Yep. Like both can exist, but one doesn't have to control the other. And it doesn't mean too that one can't control the other. So for example, like maybe we were out having fun, and for us, like every, once a month we go out and get our Oreo cheesecake together. And that's a fun thing that we like to do. But are we okay with it the next day? Right. So that goes back to the food, the guilt, and the anxiety of it. And so emotions can play a role, but emotions shouldn't dictate the choices.
Right. Absolutely. There's a difference between intent, right, and mindless eating, like intentional eating of I'm going to go, we have a client who her and her husband go get a cheeseburger every week. That's just something they like to do, and they split it and they split the fries, and that's just something they do, right? It's intentional. There's no emotion involved in it. It's something they do together. Whereas mindless eating is I'm eating this cheeseburger because I can't possibly think of order something else because I'm so stressed out. So the cheeseburger is just easiest, when really the cheeseburger is what you're trying to use to cope with that emotion. It's very important, you guys, to realize that when food is your only way to cope with stress, like that is a huge issue, because not only does it stunt your emotional maturity, but it can cause you to be unhealthy, right? If you are eating certain types of foods. Now, not every person who emotionally eats is in a bigger body or an unhealthy body. I mean, there's plenty of athletes that I've seen emotionally eat, right? But for a good majority of people, that can cause you physical ailments that's only going to make you feel more disconnected to your body, which takes me to number 7, which is body respect, right? Body respect and attuned eating. and being able to eat in a way that supports your energy, right? Your focus, your well-being, rather than solely for weight control, or as I was just talking about, to manage your emotions. Like knowing, being attuned to your body too goes back to number 6 of like, if I'm attuned to myself, I know that I'm stressed out. I'm going to engage in an emotional regulation skill, right? Whether that's the body scan or progressive muscle relaxation, breath work, walking. Then if I'm hungry, I eat, right? And like you said, separating those two things, 6 and 7 go together so well, because you have to have that awareness in order to create that separation between the emotional parts of your bodies and the physical parts of your bodies. And so respecting your body's needs rather than fighting them, as we've talked about, fighting against what nature has intended for you.
Yeah. I've got a good example for this that kind of collaborates a couple of these values. Is at one point I thought intermittent fasting was the cure to whatever I wanted to cure. And I remember being so hungry come like noon was the time, because that was when the lunch hour was, as usual in an office. And so I just had to wait till noon. But I wasn't respecting my body in the sense that it was telling me it was so hungry. Right. And so then by the time lunch came, I was like, I could not eat fast enough. And then I was still so hungry. But again, a rule I had was like, okay, well, now I have to wait till 4 for my snack,
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of going through the checkbox of having the food. So I wasn't listening to like my hunger signals, but I also was creating these restrictive rules around them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you can begin to listen to your body in all of these ways, the physical, the emotional, the mental, right? You're going to begin to work from what you actually need. Your body will tell you when you're full. And for a lot of you, you say, well, I don't have control. I've felt out of control of how much I eat, but I'm going to challenge that you probably did that exactly what Amanda is saying by restricting it. So then the body isn't in a place to send the appropriate cues because you're so hungry, right? And hunger is a stress in the body. So by listening to your body and eating in a way that supports what it's telling you and doing that over time, you're only going to create more confidence in that. And your body's going to trust you. Like we don't realize that our body has feedback loops to keep us alive. And some of those are, even adaptation to not getting in enough food, right? So now we are eating less food, but maintaining our weight because the body has created this adaptation from doing so. But, for some of you who are like, well, I tried to listen to my body before and I just tend to overeat. It's like, okay, well, what parts are you listening to? Right. And what happened prior to that? Did you restrict your food and then you overate? Okay, well, then that's the thing we need to listen to more than in an effort to feel in control when we're eating that next meal, if that makes sense. The next one I love, the social and cultural integration. And I think of this because of our families. And I think of some of my Middle Eastern clients whose families are big into, they celebrate with food, right? And not feeling like you have, you have to bring your Tupperware to your family's, bat mitzvah or whatever it is, for me, coming from, I'm half Hispanic and half Italian, like food is family. And while I have strong, I have my own boundaries because my mom does not, I still enjoy those foods. They make me feel good. Right. And so being able to enjoy those foods with my family without anxiety. I mean, there were times where I did bring my own food to my parents. And for a mom whose love language is feeding others, that was like giving her the middle finger. But being able to engage in those family traditions, I didn't tell you this, but my uncle passed away last week. And so I'll be going to the funeral next Tuesday. And there'll be all the things there. Like I know what to expect. I mean, it's my Hispanic side of the family. We'll have probably mariachi band there because his wife loves mariachi. And so I know what to expect. And I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, I can't eat that. Right. Because that's shaming them, really.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is, I see it when we're trying to be on a diet or we're trying to be healthy. There's that spectrum. And then there's the fuck it spectrum. This is what we do as a family. And I think what we're talking about is the kind of the happy medium point of like, you can go, for example, to this event and enjoy the meals, but still honor your body by listening to, okay, I'm full now.
Right.
Or we can still enjoy the social part of this. Maybe so for example, my spouse's family, sometimes their meals are, how do I put this? Not what I would prefer. And that's kind of sometimes because I'm a food snob. But I make sure that maybe I eat a bit more in the day because at that point I may not have all of what they're offering. But it's still part of being in that social place. When you're bringing your own Tupperware or when you're restricting the food, you're taking yourself out as a loner, as an isolation piece.
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
you're missing the aspect of being engaged. And sometimes the social part of it is more positive than what's actually presented as the meal. And I'll tell that a lot to clients sometimes when they are going out to eat with a girlfriend and they're nervous or something like that. It's like, but sometimes going out and being social and learning how to be uncomfortable in these environments is what is going to get you progress. Because for me, I'm going to continue to go and be with my significant other's families during meal times. For our clients, they're going to continue to go out to dinner with their significant other or their friends. So we have to learn how to adjust in these situations.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And like I said, it can feel very shaming to your family, right? Of like what we're not good enough in some aspect of it.
You think you're better than us?
Yeah, it definitely presents as better than. And so if your life, when you said this in a couple episodes ago of like, when you're 80 years old, you're still going to be 80 in an 80-year-old body. Right. Yeah. And you're not going to be this hot shit. And you're going to want to remember like those connections, those conversations you had, breaking bread, right, with your family, with your friends. Like there's an aspect of social connection involved in that. And social connection is something that we as humans is one of our needs, right? Connection and love and food. And again, in moderation, right? Everything in moderation while we're also listening to our bodies. These rules aren't just one and done. They work with each other. Right. I shouldn't say rules, values. And so we are connecting and getting that need met while also meeting the needs of what our body needs, right? So the physical aspects of it too. Next one is no compulsive or restrictive behaviors, which we've already kind of touched on. So really just not going into those extreme compensatory behaviors, which includes restriction, but also the excessive exercise, right? After a workout. If you are even more disordered, this would take you into an eating disorder, is even looking at things like laxatives or purging your food. There is a sense of purging through excessive exercise, which I've talked about here before, where, I'm not throwing it up, but I'm trying to quote, work it off. Right. Not having any sort of, I can't do this in your, well, I shouldn't say that. Like you actually know. If you're saying I can't do, that's a part of your vocabulary that we want to take out, right?
I got an example of combining 8 and 9 together is I had a client, she was going through a cut, and one of the topics, and I think I've mentioned this before on another episode, of when I talk about a client going in a cut, I always ask them, what are some red flags that would be indicative of that this isn't a good thing for us to do? And one of her statements was that I don't want to go out and socialize. So you can be in a cut, which would consider some, I don't want to say restrictions with nutrition, but adjustments with nutrition, right? But also if you're in that phase where you feel like I can't go out and do things because I can't bring my Tupperware, it's too weird, or my family doesn't serve this, or my friends don't understand, and I'm intimidated to order differently when we go out to eat, then that would be a sign of a less than healthy relationship, in my opinion.
I agree.
So, yeah, we want to make sure that you're still able to do the behaviors that you enjoy now with modifications, but that you're not so restricting yourself that you only go to the gym, you only eat healthy meals that you prepare at home, and you don't do anything else because you just want to obtain some idea of health that you have in your head so much.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot more to life than just living in a restrictive behavior area.
Well, and that goes right into number 10 of like looking at this from a long-term perspective, right? And having that self-compassion that the choices that I make today are not only helpful to my current self, but also my future self, right? Being able to understand that, you know, that single meal doesn't define your health, right? But also understanding that there is a long-term goal around nutrition that is not this perfect thing. It's a balance of pleasurable and nourishing foods. And that diet culture and disordered eating is a decision you make today that can have terrible ramifications later. Whereas the me going out and having that fudge brownie with my husband that we shared, moderation, right, was pleasurable today. And it, in the long term, tells me, you know, I can eat healthy and I can enjoy those foods, but also I can have that connective piece with my husband, which is something that I also want to have. And it is creating that consistency for my lifetime, right? I have a lot of aunts and uncles who don't have that. They all have type 2 diabetes and they eat terribly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not something I want for myself. I want to be able to have the fudge brownie moderately, but then also, again, I'm setting myself up for success in the future. And I think of it too, like if I was just eating, like you said about that client, if I was just eating nutrient dense foods, like that's not fun. Like could it be sustainable? Yes, but then it does create this lack, right, of and lack of flexibility, right? And while yes, I might have a healthier, I might be quote unquote healthier.
Yeah, my blood work looks great, but my mental is fucked.
Right. And that goes back to that ideal self episode of like, okay, this is long-term game of you said it, you're gonna have pleasurable foods in your life.
Yeah.
They will show up. One of my best friends is doing keto right now. And I told him, I said, as long as it's sustainable for you, because he wasn't asking for my opinion on it. So I didn't give it.
I had an interaction this weekend too, where I had to be like, are they asking for my opinion or are they just talking? Because if they're just talking, I need to bite my tongue.
Well, he was like, well, I already lost this much weight. And I was like, that's just water. That's just water. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but long-term goal. Yeah. You're going to have these foods long-term. You're going to be in front of pleasurable foods. You're going to go to weddings. You're going to have birthdays. You're going to have anniversaries. You're going to have Valentine's Days. You're going to have all the things. And so thinking about it in that way of like, what does this look like sustainably? I asked a client the other day and I asked our listeners to ask themselves this, like, what does a quote unquote undisordered, anti-disordered, healthy day of eating look like? What does a healthy day of eating look like? Well, when I say healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually healthy.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? I'll tell you mine. This morning I had my Better Oats. It's just a brand. So I had oatmeal, egg whites, peanut butter, banana. Yeah. Now that's not what I planned for this morning, but I ended up sleeping in because I didn't feel very good. I was supposed to do Kodiak cakes with chocolate chips with a side of egg whites and cheese on it. Not together, separate. For lunch, I'll have my salmon wrap with my I always say kettlebell chips. kettle chips.
We should make some kettlebell chips.
Kettlebell chips.
Be like a good protein. We should make some. Contact Life. Be like, hey, we want to make some chips, but they're protein chips and they're called kettlebell chips.
Kettlebell chips. And they're made in the kettle. Yeah. I'll have my piece of chocolate after lunch. Then for my snack, I have Greek yogurt with peanut butter, and then I melt chocolate on the top and then freeze it. So good. For dinner tonight, we're doing stir fry, which is rice, shrimp, egg whites, and veggies. and then soy sauce and sriracha. And then I have my creamy. Now my creamies lately, I've been doing 50 grams of banana and 10 grams of chopped peanuts. Have you ever had a chocolate covered banana? Did you ever go to like Knott's Berry Farm when you were in California?
Yeah, but I don't think I ever had a chocolate covered banana.
They're so good.
Really? I like
It's just a banana with like melted chocolate, and then they freeze it and they put peanuts on it. It's just good. So
that's good.
That's a healthy day for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, today I had my breakfast burrito. So in my breakfast burrito, I do 3 eggs with egg whites. I did some ground beef, black beans, zucchini, potatoes with a tortilla, salsa, and avocado. Then I had some blueberries. Then for lunch, I'll do russet potato with some quinoa, veggies, and probably a canned salmon because we don't have any meat ready. Snack will probably be chicken nugs, duh. And then our dinner, we're doing a roast that I've got in the crock pot. So potatoes and carrots with that and avocado. I put a lot of avocado on everything. And then for dessert, usually I've been having, because I'm still hungry, I've been doing like this Greek yogurt just to get some more protein in food. But it's good. It's funny because when you're talking about this self-compassion, long-term perspective, I had to kind of adjust my a situation with Michael. And this has been over time is because we would make pazookies at home usually. So if you don't know what that is, it's a half-baked cookie with ice cream. And Michael eats really fast. And when it's dessert and he likes it, he eats even faster. So I would try and like eat it faster so I could make sure I had like my half before he encroached on my half.
Right.
And I had to learn, like, you know what, and then I would be done and I'd be like, God, I ate so much. Like, I would just feel guilty about it. I would feel like I shouldn't have. And then I'd like feel physically not good because I had more than I wanted. And then the self-compassion would go out the window. So I was like, okay, well, obviously we're going to keep doing this. Right. So thinking long-term. And then I had to decide, if I eat this slowly and mindfully and just kind of have my pieces, I'm going to enjoy it even more. And I'll end up having less because I'm slowly engaging in this, and he can have what he has. Right. And so it's funny because I ended up doing that. And usually there's now a couple bites left that I would probably try and like shove in my face before he got to him. And at this point, usually I'm like, I don't even want it anymore because I enjoyed it so much along the way. And so now I don't wake up with that shame and guilt. I'm like happy that we did it socially. We engaged in something together. We enjoyed a pleasurable food, and we're going to do it long term.
Yep. Love it. Love ice cream and cookies. So good. A healthy relationship with food is ultimately a sustainable, flexible, and self-compassionate relationship with food. And if you struggle with any of these, and for a lot of people, like, no way could I do that. That is a cognitive distortion. That is a distortion that requires attention and education that our programs can provide you. For those of you who are interested, we have an easy way to understand what we do. It's the 21-day Food and Body Reset Challenge, which is going to be starting March 31st. We will create a foundation around this very thing. Now, it's just creating the foundation, but there will be opportunity to continue working on that foundation with us after the 21-day challenge. Please check out the show notes below for information on that.
I can say for a mindset of mommies of creating a healthier relationship with food, because a lot of times what happens is, one, we binge because we figure I'm going to gain weight anyways. I might as well. And oftentimes I'll tell you that's probably behavior that was there before pregnancy. We're just using pregnancy as a reason to be doing that. So with the Mindset of Mommies program, we're going to talk about that and what actually adding in calories looks like, how to gauge if you should add calories, what your body image change looks like. So looking at that accession of how you look, exercising and making sure we're not over-exercising or under-exercising or using exercise or not exercise as a reason of why you're fatigued and tired, and how to adjust for it too. So we've got that group cohort. Will start March 3rd on this.
Yay! So we have plenty of ways to work with us that are not the full commitment to our coaching, but really can help you create that foundation. Because, whether, again, if it's working with us after the fact, or you feel like that's really all you need is to understand and create some of the, just incorporate some of these values in, then great. We love that for you. If you love this information, we'd love for you to make sure that you're following us anywhere you listen to podcasts or you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. And if you would be so kind, we'd love a 5-star rating and review. That helps us get out to more people, because algorithms love when audiences love what they're listening to. Yeah. Again, you can check out the show notes below to check out how to work with us. And we hope that you found this helpful, as we don't necessarily talk about what is it actually supposed to look like when it comes to our relationship with food. And other than that, we want to leave you with this one last thing.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.